It appears now that conservative anti-tax and anti-government groups have taken advantage of taxpayer bailouts during the coronavirus pandemic that we are currently in the middle of. Thanks to releases by the Small Business Administration, we now know some of these groups have received this money and at the same time showed rank hypocrisy on government spending. So let me give you some details here. One of the groups named was Grover Norquist's organization. No, Grover Norquist is not a, Sesame Street character. He's actually an anti-tax zealot who runs Americans for Tax Reform. So they say, oh, no increasing taxes, limit government spending. In fact, I think he's the guy who said that I'd like to shrink government down to the size of where you could fit it in a bathtub and then strangle it or drown it or something like that. I think it's drown it in the bathtub, although, many different conservatives have had many different fantasies of killing the government, right? And so it's kind of weird and a little bit disturbing that they hate it so much. But nonetheless, that's a group, Americans for Tax Reform, that hates government spending, bailouts, and, of course, increased taxes. So how much should they take from the government? Well, Americans for Tax Reform took a loan between $150,000 and $350,000 from the Paycheck Protection Program, which, of course, was part of the CARES Act that Congress had passed. So that was, of course, a giant omnibus program that, yes, did give people on unemployment until July 31st to get an extra $600 of federal unemployment benefits to, encourage them, of course, to stay home during a pandemic. That's something that Bernie Sanders fought for, and something that Republicans now are very unlikely to renew. Then we also have the $1,200 stimulus check that was something that Donald Trump was in favor of. He is once again in favor of another $1,200 stimulus check. And so he wants that put into any future coronavirus relief packages. But then again, that's got to get through the Senate. Mitch McConnell is still against that and against passing any more coronavirus relief legislation. So that's part of that CARES Act, right? Is that Paycheck Protection Program, which was supposed to help protect these companies and protect jobs, right? So you get a loan to keep your business afloat. And if you keep all your employees, then you get to basically keep that money. That loan turns into a grant. And so that's the scam that a lot of these anti-tax, anti-government groups are doing. They're saying, well, we're just taking out loans. But then if we don't fire people, we just get free money. And so that's what that's about. And so now it's kind of weird how they don't oppose this. To be fair, Americans for Tax Reform says, well, we were against the CARES Act and we were against the passage of that bill because we thought that was too much government spending. Oh, by the way, since it passed, give me money. Gimme. Bit of rank hypocrisy, right? So now they said, well, we were badly hurt by the government shutdown, and so that's why gimme. Now, tell me, what does Americans for Tax Reform do? How is this group, this anti-government conservative group that I guess runs think tanks and advocates and lobbies for less taxes and less government spending, how are they vital to the economy? I understand that they provide jobs, right? And so that's their justification. Well, I mean, we provide jobs to these people, to basically run propaganda against the government. So government, give us money. Oh, right. And of course, they got that money. Jesus Christ. All right. Well, there's more. There's another beneficiary, the Paycheck Protection Program. And that is the, drum roll please, the Ayn Rand Institute. The Ayn Rand Institute. Of course, named after famed objectivist and libertarian philosopher Ayn Rand. So, you know how much they received from the Paycheck Protection Program? They got a loan of between $350,000 to $1 million. So now they called this, and of course they were immediately out there saying, "Oh, well, we're still against the government and everything like that." But we think that this is partial restitution for government-inflicted losses. Again, what, like, how are they essential to the economy? Honestly, none of these, like, think tanks, whatever. Yes, I know they provide jobs, but they're not actually vital to the freaking economy. And so they're not really important. And yet they're getting bailed out by us, the taxpayers. Where do you think that money is coming from? It comes from us. And so now, because, the government shutdown has hurt us so much, now you feel entitled to our money. Amazing. Let me give you a quote here from Ayn Rand Institute board member Harry Binswanger. And so now he said this back in May. Quote, "It would be a terrible injustice for pro-capitalists to step aside and leave the funds to those indifferent or actively hostile to capitalism." Adding that any organization would take any relief money offered us. No, of course they would. Think about it. The Ayn Rand Institute is just like Ayn Rand. She had no problem taking Social Security money from the government because, it was beneficial for her. And that's the thing about objectivism, right? Remember, the primary focus of being an objectivist is to be selfish, right? They glorified selfishness, demonized altruism. So if you're a hypocrite and you decide to take government money while opposing government taxation, well, then you would be, as an objectivist, 100% on brand. And I guess technically not a hypocritical because, well, I mean, of course, if it benefits me, of course I'm going to take it. Well, it wasn't actually offered to you, though. That's the thing. You had to apply for it. You had to go and apply for these loans through the Paycheck Protection Program. So it's not as if, there's money here. We're just going to, here, Ayn Rand Institute, we know you don't believe in this. We know you don't want this money. But here, we're going to shove it down your throat anyway, and you just have to accept it from the government. No, they actively applied for it and said, we need the money. Give me their money. Give it to me now. I want that delicious taxpayer money. The Ayn Rand Institute, everybody. Look, this is what they do. They take everything that they can and they kick everyone else away. They kick down the ladder. They pull up the ladder to make sure that nobody else can benefit from this. How many small businesses, real small businesses, were denied Paycheck Protection Program money because these organizations that provide no useful benefit to the economy swooped in and took all that money? Yeah, a lot. These people are not just hypocritical. There's something wrong with them to just hoard that wealth and then to tell regular Americans that are struggling right now to bootstrap their way. It's just, they're sociopaths. Now, there's another group that was also a critic of the CARES Act, right? Citizens Against Government Waste. This is great. That's one of the country's most prominent anti-government spending organizations and a frequent critic of the CARES Act. They took between $150,000 and $350,000 in government loans, which could become grants if they don't lay off their employees. Again, that's part of the grift as well. So, of course they did. Look, if you're not understanding right now that these organizations are all hypocritical and they're all out there to try to gather as much money as much taxpayer money as they can from you to transfer wealth from you up to the top, then you're not paying attention. Now, there are more people on this list. This is a huge list. First, there's politicians, right? For example, West Virginia Governor Jim Justice took a lot of money. He was a former Democrat, now a Republican. This is from a report in Forbes. They said that the coal mining tycoon has served as governor of West Virginia since 2017, and as Forbes detailed in an April 2019 investigation, hasn't been great at paying his bills. His Greenbrier resort in White Sulphur Springs was shut down for 2 months from late March to late May, took a PPP loan ranging from $5 to $10 million. Whoa! The Greenbrier Sporting Club, a membership club that touts luxury living, infinity pools, and more for real estate owners in the 11,000 acres around the resort, took a loan of $1 to $2 million in April. And of course, the reason that we don't have exact amounts is that the administration does not want us to know the exact amounts that they had been given. But again, this is Jim Justice, and he turned from Democrat to Republican because he hates socialism. Greenbrier, as the magazine notes, did not retain a single job with that $5 to $10 million, meaning, of course, that they hopefully will be able to pay back that loan. But as I just mentioned, Jim Justice sucks at paying his bills. So what's going to happen? Are they going to be able to repay that loan? That's a good question. Very good question. There's more. David Green, founder of Hobby Lobby, picked up somewhere between $2 to $5 million for his Museum of the Bible. Now, unlike Jim Justice, Forbes says that saved a total of 249 jobs. So between $2 to $5 million, and they saved just shy of 250 jobs. Of course. Now, look, Hobby Lobby hates the government, unless, of course, the government gives them money. So that $2 to $5 million, since they saved nearly 250 jobs, will likely turn into a grant instead of a loan. All right. So now there's more. The New York Times also reported that Trump loyalists and Trump allies have been receiving this money, one of them being the law firm Kasowitz, Benson, and Torres. Now, that's a law firm that was founded and ran by Trump's longtime personal lawyer, Mark E. Kasowitz. They received a loan for between $5 to $10 million. That firm, of course, represented Mr. Trump for over a decade before he was elected president, both in his business dealings and in other matters, such as helping him keep divorce records sealed, as well as representing him during the Mueller investigation. There's that. Now, the president himself also appears to have benefited from this support, indirectly, of course, since his company didn't actually request any Paycheck Protection Program funding. But data did show that dozens of tenants and buildings owned by Mr. Trump or managed by his companies did receive that money. One reported recipient was a hair salon in the president's hotel in Chicago. Of course, they get money, and then they use that money to, of course, pay rent, and that helps Donald Trump. That helps the Trump Organization. More than 20 businesses listed at 40 Wall Street, an office building near New York Stock Exchange that Mr. Trump has owned since the 1990s, also reportedly received government loans totaling at least about $20 million. At this point, you might be wondering who didn't get loans at this point. Well, I have information on that too. Back to Forbes, who noted that the Paycheck Protection Program has been accused of discrimination against Black-owned small businesses. Oh, so those are the people who are not getting loans, small businesses that happen to be minority-owned. Fantastic. Now, the Times also reports that red states like North Dakota, South Dakota, Nebraska, and Kansas did see loan approvals of at least up to 90% of their eligible small business payroll. However, they did rank among the least affected states in terms of unemployment clearing the crisis. So, of course, companies that didn't actually need it. Awesome. Now, the two hardest hit states for unemployment claims, New York and California, both blue states, saw loan approvals equal to about 3/4 of their eligible payrolls. Okay, well, that might not seem like a big difference. You got 90% versus 75%, right? And obviously more businesses in California and New York. However, by that measure, California companies would have received billions more from the program if they had seen approvals at the same rate as these red states. So this program is rife with grift and discrimination, including members of the administration, Congress, and companies and think tanks and organizations that really add no benefit to the economy and didn't need it in the first place. You want to target, waste, fraud, and abuse? Well, this would be a great place to start. I mean, right here is a story chock full of waste and fraud and abuse. No wonder Donald Trump and his allies fought so hard to stop any sort of oversight. The American taxpayer, you and I, we're being robbed during a pandemic, no less. When, we should actually be receiving our tax money back in the form of a UBI and guaranteed tax benefits. That's our money. We would like to have some of it back because right now there are 40 million people that are unemployed and a worldwide pandemic that has affected us greatly. We have over, almost 3 million people that we know of that have been infected in the United States, over 130,000 people that have died from COVID-19. There are, of course, as I said before, 40 million people that are unemployed. Until employment returns to pre-COVID levels, and we can't do that in the middle of a pandemic, then people deserve to have their tax money work for them, to come back to them in the form of an income support. But we don't have that. Instead, our money went to giant corporations and connected individuals in the form of loans that will likely be turned into grants. Why isn't this this a scandal? Why aren't people pissed off? Why aren't you in the streets with your mask on, of course, protesting this? Why? Well, we should be. We should demand a UBI. We should demand an end to the corruption in our government. And we should demand that our money be used to help the people instead of these already powerful, wealthy corporations. Hey guys, hopefully you enjoyed that free video. Now I'm going to have to ask you a favor. Between the demonetization and the YouTube algorithm messing around with view counts, etc., we're having a hard time adjusting to the new YouTube reality, which is where you guys come in. See, we have a Patreon, patreon.com/TYTNation, set up to help us rely on you guys, the viewers, instead of big corporate ads. Look, you know the show. You know I'm not in favor of big corporations anyway. So help us transition away from relying on the ad model to pay the bills and sign up to be a patron, patreon.com/TYTNation. That goes a long way to help us keep the lights on. And you guys will know that you're supporting independent, progressive media.